Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and this is the second day of the battle embargo, and since, you know, there's a bunch of new units, why not use them in actual combat? So today I'm joined by War Master Moloch. I am playing as the Greenskins and he's playing as the Skaven, his favorite faction. The link to his channel will be found in the description below. He's a close friend of mine. And I am coming in with a rather mixed army of Greenskins. I'm playing as Gorbad Ironclaw, so I figured why not go by Gorbad's actual lore. He's a tactician. He uses a lot of different units. So my roster is Gorbad Ironclaw, Snaggler, Grobspit, who are using as many of the DLC units as possible, 2 units of Goblin Spearmen, 3 units of Orc Boys, 2 units of Spider Riders, 2 units of Boar Boys, I like using as many mounted units as possible with him, 3 units of Goblin Wolf Riders, 2 Mangler Squigs, and a Colossal Squig. The idea here is some skirmishers in the back hiding out, waiting for the right time to charge alongside the legendary hero, and the majority of my troops coming in as a front line. Now, for the Skaven, we do have quite a lot of variety here. We've got some Death Runners, a unit of Death Runners, 1 unit of Plague Monks, 1 unit of Storm Vermin with Hand Weapon and Shield, 2 units of Storm Vermin with Halberds, 2 units of Gutter Runners, which were on the other side of the map, a Rattling Gun, a unit of Warp Block Jezzails, Warp Lightning Cannon, and some mortars, some Poison Wind mortars. All this supported by a Plague Priest and Frot the Unclean. Now there's 2 different types of playstyles being showcased here. I'm a very aggressive type of player when it comes to Total War, either in multiplayer or even in just campaign, whereas Moloch likes to play more defensively. So we're seeing the Skaven hold back a little bit whilst we are charging in. It's going to take a while for us to get there, and I'm not going to move my skirmishers. He has still not found them just yet. We were talking a lot during these battles, so there was a lot of back and forth, and his plan was just to kind of push me around with his skirmishers, but he was expecting me to be more far back. He was expecting some rock lobbers, maybe a doom diver, but I wanted to go full aggression here and just try to see how well the Mangler Squid can do, because this was one of the first days that I had early access and I wanted to just play around with those. But yeah, charging straight through, not the best tactic. Sure, there's better, you can flank around more with the Boar Boys, for example, but my idea here was very similar to those mixed types of armies that you'd see in fluffy tabletop tournaments. As always, I do have to remind you that I am not a multiplayer player, so don't expect pro gameplay. The idea here is to just have a little bit of fun. You're seeing 2 campaign people who actively try to stay away from multiplayer, actually give it a proper shot. So we don't know what the meta is, we just know what we like using in campaign. The Skaven are going to have the benefit here of having a decent amount of range. Jezzails can fire from quite far away, and the Warp Lightning Cannons are going to do a decent amount of damage too. I have to hope that they either miss or aim at stuff that isn't really going to hurt me too much. That's going to be a problem for my Greenskins as their armor is going to melt. They do have a lot of Skaven here which are very good at anti-large. He was expecting a Colossal Squig. He was actually expecting 2. And to be honest, I would have brought 2. I just wanted to play around with different stuff here. And we weren't using unit caps for this battle specifically. Just a little bit of fun because unit caps, cool in a competitive play, not so cool in a game between friends. Very early on we'll start seeing some hits coming in, and yeah, I can feel it from the very start. It's not the best idea for me here. I should have brought in at least something to kind of hold them back a bit. One benefit that I do have is just cool units, so I don't care. I don't care if I lose, I don't care if I win, and I think Moloch's pretty much the same. We do take a bit of heavy damage on the Mangler Squigs on one of them, because the Warp Lightning Cannons are smartly going for them. Mangler Squigs can do loads and loads of damage to infantry units and rip apart hordes, so it makes sense to get rid of them quite early on. And as we start getting a little bit closer, yep, the Jezzails start getting into range and firing in. It's going to be heavy fire for my troopers now. He's summoning a unit of Clan Rats with Dwellers Below to slow down my troops. It was a kind of smart decision. I really was not expecting my Mangler Squigs to start rampaging, but there we go. Straight into the Clan Rats to actually hurt them, which means I can ignore the other troopers now and just go straight in. By that point, I decided, no, I'm going to go straight in. Here's where my Spider Riders come in, netting down the enemies. Snaggler able to drop down a summon for some extra spiders, and my Wolf Riders coming straight in into melee rather than having them shooting. The idea here was just bog down the mortars before any more problems could present themselves. I forgot that Frot could actually summon in some Rat Ogres though, so that was a bit problematic. But with the Colossal Squig coming in and all my units starting to hit, the war starts to generate. My big issue here is I need to learn better unit control, because sometimes I just smash in my forces, so I've got just hordes of orcs fighting in one location when they could have been in others, but my boar boys are smashing through, Gorbad following shortly behind them, and the Mangler Squig still rampaging for a while. The other Mangler Squig is moving in though, and I've got them surrounded at all sides. We're pretty much hitting them from every possible direction, which was my plan. The orcs are going to hold, the war coming out there, that's going to start hurting them a lot more. My big thing is I wanted to take advantage of the low Skaven leadership. Eventually they'll break and I can actually just really run them down. My problem is I forgot certain things. Like for example, Mangler Squigs fighting against Frot, when I should have had them on the Jezzails or the Rattling Guns. The other units are killing off without too much of a problem. You can see right in the back there, the Gutter Runners are closing in, but by the time they get here, it might be too late. Spider Riders have taken out the Warp Lightning Cannons, and the Wolf Riders are still up and running. Plague hitting me from behind was quite the panic. It's something that I wasn't really expecting, and I should have, considering that I knew the Plague Priest was coming, but hey, you know, sometimes you forget. He did do a decent amount of damage to himself there, too. I was alright in this case. Most of my troopers were all over the place. They were spread out. The Colossal Squig coming in and starting to do some big damage by itself, because it is very much capable as soon as it starts rolling in. The Death Runners have just arrived. Those units were so far back it wasn't really going to be much of a problem, and all my mounted units from behind are really hurting them too. I'm quite happy using a lot of Skirmish Riders, and I'm trying to make sure that I'm keeping up the war as fast as I can, because I want to have that extra damage against them. It's the major benefit that the Greenskins have over other factions. That war keeps replenishing and you can keep using it. Colossal Squig proving itself to be a rather good unit as it rolls through enemy lines. It's taking some big damage against the Halberdier Skaven, but at this point those are the ones that need to go, and the fact is I can take out its leadership and hopefully cause a rout. The back end is mostly empty, barring the fact that Frot is really good at holding. Probably one of the better lords there. I've got some summoned in spiders still trying to hurt them, and I should have started flanking a bit more through the rear, but yeah, I really wanted to make sure that Frot was taken care of, sending Gorbad up there. The Skaven are regrouping now that they've got their skirmish throwers coming in. They can do a lot of damage, and the Colossal Squig in the far back there running into the trees, whilst the Mangler Squigs are trying their absolute best against some halberds. It's a bit of a difficult fight, and the Gutter Runners can hurt quite heavily. Morlock is someone who exclusively uses Skaven for most of his gameplays, so yeah, I knew that I was going to come in against someone who knew what they were doing, at least not from a multiplayer point of view, but knew their units very well. The Colossal Squig does come back though, which is quite nice, and rampages. Rampage is such an issue for me, because I never really know how to plan around that. You can't generally plan around it too well, but it's one of those things where if you have too many things that rampage, it can easily screw you over. Like the Colossal Squig coming back, and then, yeah, just disappearing, because it got shot down and broke. But hey, that's the risk I decided to take when bringing just a bunch of squigs, and at one point I do want to try just squig-only armies. It's not like it's going to be too much of an issue right now. We do have a lot of troops coming in, but there is a lot of heavy hits from Plague. I must admit, there was a lot of commitment from Moloch there for Plague, which is not a very cheap spell, but it does have a massive payload. I was trying to escape there as much as possible, but even then, a bunch of my spiders broke, and I was starting to lose a little bit of faith there. Now, Frot and his character's almost dead. His Plague Priest just getting demolished by Gorbad, who is very good at knocking out the pain there, and after that, the Skaven just start to break. Which, hey, I mean, this was kind of expected. I was coming in from a lot of areas, and his deployment was a bit all over the place, but that type of stuff does happen. You never really plan these things too well. I mean, Gorbad barely got any kills in, but he was focusing mostly on characters. The spiders performed very well, but the big ones were the Orc Boar Boys, the Mangler Squigs performing incredibly well, and also the big Colossal Squig, which I'm quite happy to say I very much enjoy it. On the Skaven side, the Death Runners, despite the fact that they were so far away from the beginning, did manage to rack up a lot of kills, which is very, very impressive. Same thing as the Plague Priest with 180. At the end of the day, Plague is a tremendously good spell. My problem is I kept bunching up my troops, and Plague was just way too attractive a spell not to cast. And then the Storm Vermin with Hand Weapon and Shield, proving that even though they're a defensive unit, they are still very much capable on doing damage. But yeah, that's the end of this battle. Let me know what you guys think. Please be advised, we're not multiplayer players, but we wanted to have a little bit of fun. I like collabing with friends, and Moloch has helped me a lot over the years. Anytime I've had a PC issue, he's been able to help me out, which I very much appreciate it. His channel is linked in the description below. Go say hi to him. He'll be dropping content, I believe, as from tomorrow he's allowed to. But yeah, have a great day, guys, and I'll see you all again very, very soon.